From front of house to center stage, for over 25 years, Earthworks microphones have sculpted the sounds of your favorite concerts, venues, and performances. Earthworks Audio is a sponsor of the Tech Arts Podcast. We are so happy to have them on board and excited to promote the new Earthworks SR117 vocal mic and capsules. To find out more about Earthworks Audio or to get your hands on this mic, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. Capturing emotion with sound. earthworksaudio.com. From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz.
This is the Tech Arts Podcast, where we talk about tech, leadership, and all things that concern church audio, video, and lighting.
Welcome to the Tech Arts Podcast and the Earthworks Audio Studios. First, I need to give a shout out to our sponsors. Thank you to Earthworks Audio and Digico for being a part of this podcast and assisting with our mission to help the local church. If you don't like and subscribe to the Tech Arts Podcast, make sure you do that today. Our YouTube subscribers has gone up substantially in the last 2 months, but the podcast side of things, well, it still needs a little love from you guys and gals. So be sure to tell all your friends about us and go onto your favorite outlet and subscribe today. If you don't have a podcast outlet, you can go to techartspodcast.com and find an outlet that works for you. We have a good one today. It's called Mic It Up. Matter of fact, in the past episodes, we have talked audio from a 50,000 foot level, concepts, consoles, stuff like that. In today's podcast, I want to talk more specifics with audio. Specifically, I want to talk about mics and not only how to mic a vocal or an instrument or a choir, but what mic is the right tool for that instrument or vocal. I also wanted to have a discussion with someone who not only mixes front of house, but also mixes post and broadcast for TV. That brings me to my introduction of my next guest. Please welcome to the Tech Arts Podcast, Matt Lowe. Hey, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good, man. I'm excited. I don't know if you're a Rangers fan, but the Rangers, and this is probably going to air after the World Series, right? But the Rangers are in the World Series. I went online and snagged a deal for tickets. So this Friday, I'm going to be going to Game 1 of the World Series. So I am pumped, man. It's a once in a lifetime thing, and I looked at the ticket prices afterwards, and they like quadrupled after I got them, but I snagged a ticket. So I don't know. Are you a Rangers fan?
I am. Yeah, I've followed them most of the season. I just today got my World Series hat in the mail.
Are you going to the World Series?
I'm not. No.
Oh, okay.
When I started looking at the tickets, they were quadruple.
So Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself. We did a pre-interview, so I kind of know who you are and what you've done. But give our audience a little bit of insight of what you've done in the industry. Give us some of your street cred.
Yeah. So my name's Matt Lowe. I started off as a drummer growing up, doing drums in my youth group, and from there I went on to do audio because everywhere we went, the audio wasn't very good. So I decided to make it a little bit better for the musicians. And my travel took me to Nashville. I was in Oklahoma, and my travel took me to Nashville, where I went to school at Belmont University. And from there, basically started right out of school. I mean, I was a production manager in Franklin, Tennessee for a little while at a production house that did live recordings. We did a Jeremy Camp back in the day, one of his live recordings for Integrity, and all the Christian labels are there. So they all did their showcases at the place that I was at and everything. So that was fun and kind of started my journey, I would say, of doing production and music and mixing. From there, I went to California. A church hired me as their production director, and basically I jumped from one church to the next, and the next one was my landing spot for about 13 years. I was the technical director at a church out in Irvine, California called Free Chapel, Orange County. And it was a blast. I love that church with everything that's in me. Can't speak enough good words about them. And while I was there, it catapulted me to the next season of my life. And I had the great opportunity while I was there to work with Jennifer Lopez, Pharrell Williams, Monica. I did studio work with Usher, Leona Lewis, Shaka Khan. Worked with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis at their studio.
A few of those are kind of popular, just a little bit.
Just a few. Just a few. In the Christian world, I traveled with a guy named BJ Putnam, who has written some songs with Israel Houghton. And Israel would come into the church there in Irvine. He would play there for a while. So I got a chance to mix for him while at the church. Mac Powell would come through, CeCe Winans. So it was a fun time, and I had a blast. And then from there, I actually decided to do more broadcast side, and so I started working for Trinity Broadcasting, and now I'm doing more post audio in the box, kind of just making sure that TV levels are good and mixing talking heads for the most part.
Yeah, well, that's why we wanted to have you on, because today's episode is called Mic It Up, and we wanted to talk about mics. But you mentioned some names there that are pretty popular. You got to have a funny story about something that happened with some of those guys.
Yeah. So I think I had done about 2 or 3 shows with J-Lo at that point, and one of the shows that we did was a private event for a wedding. This very rich couple, I don't even remember their name, but they basically hired J-Lo and her dancers to come in just for that one night for their wedding party and do a private concert. No band, it was all tracks. And it was just her and her dancers, and yeah, it was an interesting night, to say the least.
If it's your wedding, I really hope it was the wife who brought her in, because if it was the husband, I don't know. That's a conversation that's probably going to be had down the road.
Yeah.
Hey, I brought J-Lo and their dancers in for the wedding, honey. How do you think of that?
Definitely.
So, that's cool, man. I mean, sounds like you have a lot of cool stories, but it looks like you've been coming back kind of towards the Christian side of things. So tell us why. Why have you stayed, with Trinity Broadcasting Network and Free Chapel? What brings you in that direction versus over on the secular side? We all know the secular side, you can make a lot more money there, but it seems like you're kind of heading in the Christian direction. Give us a little bit of the reason why you're staying on that side of things.
Yeah, so I grew up in church. My dad was a pastor for 5 years. My parents were always in the music industry side of things. My dad played guitar and was in a band when he was younger and everything. And him and my mom would tour and do worship music at churches when we were younger. And my love for music was always at the church. And so it's my heart. It's my passion. I love teaching. I love training. I love going out and just meeting other people who are doing what we do. And it's more of a challenge, I think. In the secular world, you get what you want. I mean, you can get whatever console you want, whatever PA you want, whatever microphones you want. Whereas in a church, you're not always able to do that. You have to steward the money that people are giving to you, and some churches can't have the nicest stuff. Some churches have analog consoles still. It's like not everybody has a digital board, and it's more of a challenge. So I think I love going in and helping and teaching and just seeing where people are at and what they can do with what tools they're given.
I know some audio engineers just went, "What's an analog console?"
Yeah, right.
We grew up in the days of analog console.
I did, and tape.
That's right. We know what those are. Those 1-inch machines.
Yes. You had to get it right and splice the line.
That's right. That's right. Well, Matt, we always do a church tech tip on the podcast. And I know we're going to be talking about microphones with instruments and different things here a little bit later in the podcast. But today's church tech tip is the SR3117 by Earthworks. I've been hearing rave reviews about this microphone. I have not yet heard it yet, though, and I know you have heard it. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the SR3117. They make a wired version, which I think is the 117. And I know they're coming out with, by the time this podcast airs, they're coming out with the Sennheiser version as well. The SR3117, I believe, is for the Shure wireless. But tell us a little bit about that microphone and why it's so amazing.
So I was extremely fortunate to get it before it was released, and basically just kind of try it out. First experience, the microphone that I was using prior to this, there were a couple that we were using. I was still at Free Chapel when it came out, living in California. I've since moved to Texas, but in California, when we got the mic, we were using a DPA 4018 on our lead vocal, and then we had Telefunken M80s on all the rest of the backline, and then KSM 9s on our speaking mics. My first impression was I was blown away. We flattened the EQ. I didn't have to bring much down at all. I was able to get more gain before feedback, which was incredible. In our room, we had, I think there were 16-foot ceilings. I mean, it's a really low ceiling. You can jump on the stage and hit the line array is how low things are in that room.
Wow.
And so just the ability to turn it up as loud as we needed to.
Yeah, so you had vocals that were probably standing right under, around, or near the line arrays, just kind of blasting right at the microphone.
Yep.
And it gave you more. I mean, how much more gain did it give you? 3 dB, 6 dB? I mean, where did it take you?
It was about 6. Yeah, it was about 6 dB. And in the room, obviously mixing live, you can't really tell the rejection from the rest of the stage. I mean, we have our drums in an enclosure, but the back was open, so the cymbal bleed was still there. Pretty heavy drummer, so all the cymbals would bleed out. And it was night and day when we went into the broadcast room with it. It was. They were like, are you listening to his mic? Like, is that his microphone? And then he wasn't singing at the time, and then he would start singing, and it was like, whoa, that's incredible. Like, you can't hear the drums. And so it was just, it blew us away. And they actually ended up buying, I think, 8 capsules when they came out.
That's awesome. And the vocal quality is crisp and clean?
Yeah, it's definitely my preference now. With vocal mics, I was.
So this is your go-to mic.
This is my go-to mic. Yeah, I was a DPA guy. Would swear by it. Loved it. I never really liked the Shure capsules. The KSM 9. Everybody raved about it when it came out. Back when it came out, I was a Sennheiser guy, so I had the Neumann capsules. I was a big Neumann fan back then, and then the church decided to go, we went back and forth, decided to go with Shure. So then it was like, I'm losing my Neumann capsule. So then we went, we tried the 58, the 87, then, the KSM 9, and now they've come out with the 8, the 11. It's kind of continued to grow, but I don't know. I fell in love with this microphone when we first tried it, and it was just, it blew me away how flat I could run the EQ and get a natural sound from our vocalist.
It's also price to quality. I mean, like when I looked at the price of this microphone, I think it's under $200. I think it's like $179 or something like that on their website. And the quality conversation that I'm hearing coming back from engineers like yourself is like, you will not believe this microphone. It'll blow you away. And of course, everybody out there is streaming. And so some of the things you talked about in terms of the rejection and not picking up all the cymbals and drums, not only does that help you with the streaming side of things, but all these churches that are throwing in drum cages and things of that nature, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but if you get a microphone like this that rejects the sound around it a lot more, maybe you don't have to have a drum cage, or you don't have to cage it as much. So those are some things that I see coming in with the SR3117 that I think is pretty amazing. And it sounds like this is your go-to mic. You use it on all your vocals now?
I use it every Sunday. Yep. It is my go-to mic.
If you guys want to get your hands on the SR3117, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. This is an amazing microphone that you need in your toolkit and will help your vocal mixes go to the next level. All right, we have to step away for a moment to help pay for this podcast, but I want to tell you and everyone else that when we come back, we are going to be talking about what mics are best for your drum kit, how to get a fat snare drum sound. We get into what mics you should use on other instruments as well. Plus, we are also going to talk choir mics, piano mics, and more. Hang on, we'll be back in just a moment. From front of house to center stage, for over 25 years, Earthworks microphones have sculpted the sounds of your favorite concerts, venues, and performances. Earthworks Audio is a sponsor of the Tech Arts Podcast. We are so happy to have them on board and excited to promote the new Earthworks SR117 vocal mic and capsules. Here's a testimony about this mic from a high-level engineer who has worked with a lot of amazing artists.
I'm Matt Lowe. I'm an audio engineer. I've worked in some of the biggest churches in America and with some of the biggest named artists in the world. This microphone is gonna blow the industry away. Every church in America needs this microphone. Every tour rider needs this microphone. And every audio engineer should hear this microphone through their PA. It will amaze you. And I can't speak more highly about this microphone.
To find out more about Earthworks Audio or to get your hands on this mic, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. Capturing emotion with sound. earthworksaudio.com. From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz. Our main sponsor is Digital Great Commission Ministries. Whether you need help building a team, finding the right gear, or just better understanding the church tech world, DGCM is here for you. Because they are a 501c3 donor-sponsored organization, they come to your church for free and do an assessment of your tech, visitor engagement, and online streaming. Plus, we give away free gear. Be sure to go to audiovideolighting.com and register your email today. This will sign you up for all of the free giveaways and give you first access to everything we offer for free. If you want free resources, training, or consulting, contact Digital Great Commission Ministries today by going to audiovideolighting.com. That's audiovideolighting.com. Welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Matt Lowe. He's with TBN, mixed with a lot of great artists, and we're talking mics and how we should mic things up. So, Matt, let's start with drums. I'm old school. I just throw an SM57 on the snare and call it a day. But there's so many other options that bring more meat to the snare drum. So, what do you recommend, Matt?
So, in my time with the snare drum, I started off as a drummer, so drums are extremely important to me. I started off with the 57, but then it just didn't. I never could get that sound that I want. I'm a country music fan as well, so I love that tight poppy snare, but also with a lot of body. And I tried, let me see, what else did I try? I tried a Beta 57, and I liked it better than the SM57. But then I found the Telefunken M80, and that was my go-to mic. I mean, that was, I own one. That would be in my bag everywhere I go. I would always use that mic. And recently that has changed, with the Earthworks 117 coming out.
So the wired version.
Version, yeah.
So you're throwing that on your snare.
I am, yeah. Yeah, it's replaced my M80.
Why do you like it so much?
I don't have to fight it as much. I didn't really have to fight it with the M80, but I feel like I get a more natural sound out of it without having to work at it too much. I don't have to put as many, I guess, plugins or EQ. I don't have to do as much EQing on it with the 117.
So if you're using that mic, let's talk mic placement. Where do you place that mic on the snare?
I have it just like the front of the microphone is right at the rim. It's like right at the edge, and probably about a half inch, maybe an inch off of the drum itself, angled. When I was in college, my professor, when we first started learning about microphones, used a flashlight as an example, and he would point the flashlight, and where do you want the flashlight to be pointed? And so I always use that as a determination. It to me, it depends on the drum and the drummer. I always look at where the drummer hits the drum the most, and that's where I want that mic to be basically pointed at.
And snare bottom, do you mic the snare bottom?
I do. I've got a bunch of different mics that I've gone with. I'm not a huge snare bottom mic user. Like I have it just in case I need more, but I don't really go to it that much. Well,
talk this for a second, because I know a lot of people out there just heard me say snare bottom, and they're sitting in a church. They volunteer on a weekend. They're running sound, and they go, "What? You put a mic on the bottom of the snare?" So help everybody understand how the snare bottom can help you.
Yeah, the snares are what make it. So like the ghost notes when a drummer barely hits the drum and stuff like that, it's like some of those you don't really pick up with the top mic. All you're going to pick up is the tone of the drum, which sounds more like a tom. So the bottom snare, you mic that right under the snares, right under the metal snares underneath, and that gives you more of that like shh sound.
Do you throw it out of phase, or how do you kind of talk people through, where you put the mic and how you mix it in? You said you don't use a lot of it, so I'm kind of interested in that.
So I put it in line with my top snare mic. Typically, it's right at the same spot. If I can position the snare so that the microphone is close to the snares themselves, I will do that to try and pick up more of the snares and less of the head of the drum, the bottom head.
So you put the top, kind of 1 inch right there at the rim, and then you put the bottom same way in line, 1 inch at the bottom of the rim, kind of maybe a little closer to get the snares, the bottom snare sound a little bit more to rattle.
Exactly. And then the out of phase thing, I go back and forth. It depends on the microphone. It depends on the placement and how much of the pickup pattern both mics are there. Because sometimes I don't need it out of phase, and other times I do. So it's back and forth. And the phase thing is I guess that's a different podcast.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, because some of that, at least with the snare, is, how loud the drummer's playing too. And, what's causing it to bleed from one mic to another mic. What mic do you like using down there?
My go-to, if I can get it, is an Audio-Technica ATM 450. It's a side address mic, I guess. It's a pencil mic, but the diaphragm is sideways on it, so it kind of looks funny. It doesn't look normal when you put it under a snare because it's flat instead of pointing.
Yeah, and then kick drum. So, snare, you get that fat kind of sound out of the snare, and then you go to the kick drum. How do you mic your kick drum?
So I'm a 2-mic guy.
So a lot of people just went, 2 mics?
Yeah. So I do inside and outside. Kind of outside. It varies, I guess, depending on the microphone. But inside, I'm a Sennheiser guy. I use an E901. I know a lot of people will hate me for that, but I love that microphone, and I fell in love with it a long time ago, and never regretted my decision. And then on the inside, I go between 3 different mics. It depends on where I'm at and what drum it is, what drummer is playing. My go-to used to be the 902, the Sennheiser, and then I went to a Telefunken M82. And from the M82, I've just recently started using the Earthworks. The SR20 LS is their kick mic. It just depends. The Earthworks drum mics are very natural, is what I will say. It takes a lot to get a church kind of pop sound out of their drum mics. But you can do it, and when you do it, it's incredible. But it is true to the drum. There's no coloring. So if the drummer doesn't know how to tune their drums, then you're going to notice it with these microphones.
Yeah, I used the 421 Sennheiser, and I liked that.
I do want to put it out there, though, and I always say this, and I will continue to say this. There's no right or wrong microphone. It's like if you can make a SM57 work on a kick and it sounds good for you, then that's the right mic for you. Like it's not like these microphones that I'm talking about are like the only microphones that are out there,
So talk a little bit about the toms and what you do to get them sounding nice and tight. That's the word everybody uses, tight.
Yeah. So I'm one of those guys. I like to trigger my gate. Like I don't like to leave the tom ringing out as long as it can ring. I like for it to die off, but a natural die off. I don't like it to just boom. I'm more of a let it breathe a little bit, but you got to have good tuning. Again, if the drummer's not a good tuner, it's going to be a struggle to get that good sound out of it. But what I've found, my go-to typically is the Sennheiser 904. The clip, it's just nice. It's small.
Sits right on there.
Yeah. If I have the budget, I'll do a 421. I absolutely love the 421s on toms. Not everybody can afford the 421 though. So, I think the 904 is a great, compromise to it, or compliment, I guess, whichever, it's a love for the 904. I've recently been using the Earthworks though on my toms as well. We keep going back to Earthworks, but there's a reason.
Coming back to our sponsor, Earthworks. I mean, there's a reason why though. I mean, they're just an amazing microphone manufacturer, and they have figured out a lot of things that we struggle with. So sorry to interrupt you there, but
no,
go ahead.
You're good. The DM20 is their tom mic, but it's a very natural sound. It's going to translate what the drum sounds like. So I keep going back to it. You got to have a drummer that knows how to tune the drums. And not every drummer does.
If somebody's out there and they just, they have a tom and all they have is a 57 or whatever it is, and they just throw it on there, how do you attack the EQ on that to try to get that you mentioned, so the reason why I'm asking you this is you mentioned gates.
Yeah.
So I think it's not just the microphone that gets you to that good sounding tom. So what are some things in your chain that you do to get that tom sounding nice and tight?
Yeah. So I use triggers not to sample a sound. I use triggers to gate the drum because I found that drummers that play cymbals, or if they're in basically a aquarium, like we have these days.
The church aquarium, otherwise known as the drum cage.
Yeah. Yeah. The full enclosure drum cage. The cymbals are just so loud in there. And it's like, if you put a gate on a tom, the tom's going to open up for the cymbal. I don't care if you put the frequency down to you're only listening to the tom itself, but you're going to hear it through the cymbal. And so we moved to triggers, and those triggers are key to open the gate, which I think a lot of churches are doing nowadays. Yeah,
I'm seeing it more and more. And kind of explain that, though, if you're a church that's like, what does he mean by trigger?
Yeah, so the trigger, we use it's typically used for sampling sound. So like if you put it on a tom, you can run it into a computer or a drum sample box and get a specific sound that you want from that box. And the trigger would be triggered when the drum is hit. It's got like a little felt, I would say, like a little felt that sits on the tom itself, and just screws onto the rim. But then that has a 1/4 inch plug in, and you go from the 1/4 inch down to 1/4 into the box. In my case, using it for a gate, I put it on a DI, and the DI goes to my console, and then basically it takes a channel, but if you don't have enough channels, then you can't use them. But
yeah, so it's the same concept as electric drums, essentially. Yeah. But you're just putting that on your acoustic drum kit. In your case, you're using it to open the acoustic drum kit electronically so that it is 100% accurate when it opens and when it closes. So, Matt, let's talk a little bit about piano, specifically acoustic piano.
Right.
I say piano, I'm like, give me a DI. I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Pianos are tough, man. I mean, when you get a good piano player, they're just not banging on it all the time. They're playing with dynamics. So what microphones do you use for piano, acoustic piano?
So I used to use 414s. And then it was like, well, we need to close the lid. And so it was like, well, okay, it's difficult to fit a 414 in there. If you could close the lid, the mic stand doesn't quite fit.
Yeah. I pulled it off once, by the way, and then the 414 fell.
Yeah. And then it's horrible. Yeah.
If you guys don't know, if you're watching on the podcast, the 414 it's a great mic, by the way, but it's pretty big.
Here, microphone. I've got one right here.
Oh, Mike's got one right there. He's going to show us. Let's see what this 414 looks like here. There you go. So it's a big microphone.
Big guy.
Yeah. So I figured out how to get one into a piano with it closed. It lasted for 30 seconds, and then it fell off my clip.
Yeah.
The piano player wasn't very happy about that.
Yeah. I for TV, I recently tried because we use lavs for television. And so I recently tried a DPA 4060, one of their lavs, and that works great. They have a miking kit that has magnets, and you can mount it multiple different ways inside the piano. They actually work really well. My favorite, again, keep going back to it, but there's a reason, is the Earthworks, their piano miking kit. It's small. It's made to go on the piano. And to me, it's a purist sound. Like, it just sounds natural.
You mic high and low, or do you only use 2, or do you use, some people use 3? They like high and then down.
Yeah, I only do 2.
Just the high and the low part.
Yeah, if I was in a studio, I might do 3. I might do like the body of it.
So how do you get, because that's a little tricky. You got a mic on the high and a mic on the low. How do you get a good sound out of that in terms of blending those two mics together?
For me, I pan them quite a bit. I'm a hard pan guy. And then I just blend it so that it just sounds natural to me. Like if I were to go up to the piano and open it up and just stand there, what would I hear? And that's the way that I mix it. It's like, or if I'm sitting at the piano, like what would the piano player want to hear? Like how would it sound to that piano player?
Yeah, so you pan the highs hard right and the lows hard left. And
I do, yeah.
You ever panned it backwards accidentally and their hands are going the wrong way?
Yeah, I quickly realized my mistake.
People are going to think I'm the worst front of house audio engineer ever. I'm dropping mics in the piano, panning them backwards. Yeah.
Everybody does it.
I'll tell you a funny story. I was, I was mixing for a church and I had a pretty solid mix, but I couldn't, there was something wrong with the snare and I just couldn't get it right. So I turned around and asked the guys, "Hey man, walk out there and listen to the snare." He walks around for about 30 seconds, and on his way back, I realized I had the snare top muted. And he comes back and he says, "Man, it just doesn't sound like it's on." And I'm like, I just, tail between the legs. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't on.
Yeah.
For that point forward, whenever they saw me, they were like, "Hey, man, the snare mic on?"
Yeah.
You gotta deal with that for the rest of your life.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'm a better front of house audio engineer than it's sounding like on this podcast.
Yeah, I think the other microphone issue that we've all had in churches is, or in, I guess, concert, live venue stuff, the speaker comes out, and if you don't have it locked on and they're trying to turn it on and off themselves, it's like, then they blame you. It's like, I'm one of those guys, like, I'll check those microphones and make sure they're locked on. It's like, if it's not going to be on, it's my fault.
Yeah, I'm the same way. But, most senior pastors, lead pastors, they want the ability to kind of control that because they always had the bathroom incident or the prayer incident or whatever. They went to the bathroom and it was left on, or they were praying with somebody and left on. So I get it. And I was at a church and pastor walked up and the audio guy was a half a second late. I mean, like, just threw it up right after he said hello, and he realized it didn't come out, and so he reached down and turned the mic off instead of on.
Yep, I've had that happen too.
Oh, so then he's thinking, oh, now it's the audio engineer. So that was a good 2 minutes of fun conversation.
Or they think the mic's broken, and then they get handed another one. And
That's right.
Oh, it wasn't broken. You just turned it off.
Yeah. The worst nightmares of our life. Everybody in the building is looking at you.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on with this guy? Can't get it right. To this pastor's credit, though, when he realized what happened, turned it back on. He was like, "Oh, that was me. It was my bad." Kind of took some of the.
That's great. When they will take responsibility for it, it's amazing.
Took the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a dying thing. I don't know what the right word is. I was looking for the right word, but choir. Not a lot of churches do choir anymore, or have choir anymore. Yeah. And when they do, it's 10 or 15 people on the platform.
Which is an ensemble.
Which, is not a choir, by the way. I mean, I think you got to hit 50.
Yeah.
But here's the point. What is the best choir mic that gives you the most gain before feedback that you have used?
Yeah, so I've used an Audio-Technica. I don't even know the model number on it, but it was I actually used it because another engineer was using it. And so I was like, okay, cool. What model is it? And I just ordered them. And then I've used the Shure little choir mics that they have, the Flex, with the little Flex on it. And then I've used the Earthworks FW730. And the Earthworks is by far my favorite. It's, again, the game before feedback and rejection of everything else on the stage is incredible. My typical choir that I do is kids choir for Mother's Day, Easter, Christmas, the usual church children's production things. And obviously the kids don't sing that loud except for the chorus. The verse comes and they're like, it gets really quiet, and then the chorus comes and it's really loud. And that microphone is it's hands down the best one for quiet miking, and obviously for the loud stuff that'll pick up plenty.
Well, so tell me if I'm crazy. This is my choir setup. I think it was 65 people. I think I had 3 or 4. I've used AKG 460. I've used 414 before. Again, if you can't figure it out, this one church I worked for, the best mic we had was a 414. So it was like we had to use it a lot. But I've used the 414. I've used the AKG 460, the KM. I think it's called 184 now. Back in the day, I think it was like the 84, the 94. Little pencil Neumanns that I've used. But I would then put handhelds in my choir on specific people that, sang specific parts, soprano, alto, tenor. I would double those microphones and then slightly delay them, put some verb on them, and then mix them up underneath my choir mics. And just to give some thickness, because it was this choir, didn't sing very loud, so it was a white choir, and
Yeah.
they were very soft in their approach, and so I couldn't get a lot. No matter what microphone I used as the area mic, I couldn't get a lot of gain before feedback, and so I would, give handhelds to certain parts, double them, delay the double, put some verb on it, and then mix that up underneath my area mics, and I got a pretty good sound out of that.
Yeah.
I would get burned every now and then when someone would sing really loud on me on the handheld.
Right.
But I got into some compression and things like that to try to control that. I think it was like 17 or 18 when I was doing this choir.
Okay.
And tell me if I'm crazy.
No, I think it's a great idea. I've seen a lot of people do that. I never did that because I didn't have enough extra mics to hand out to the kids. We did an adult choir every now and then, but not. I never got to use the Earthworks on it. But even their choir mic, they were loud enough that whatever mic I put on was fine. But yeah, no, I think the handheld approach is great if you have the capacity in your console and channel count and everything. I think it's a great idea to do that.
There was a time when we didn't have those mics to put them in the choir. So what we did is we took our vocal team, our 5 or 6 vocals that were singing out front, and whenever the choir went into the choir piece, the vocal team would sing with them. And then I would run I had an old PM1D. I would run a snapshot.
Wow. Yeah.
That would flip that and double those microphones and allow me to kind of use them up underneath until we actually got mics up in the choir. So that was what I did. That was my crazy days when we were trying to figure everything.
Yeah.
Trying to figure everything out. How do we make this choir sound louder?
Yeah.
So cellos, violins. Let's talk some of these instruments that are give you a great sound, but are just difficult in terms of they don't put a lot of volume out. So what mics do you use for like the cellos and the violins and things of that nature?
So for those like instruments, I'm more of a DPA guy on that side because of size.
DPA all the way.
Yeah, because of size, the size of them and the placement. They've just got so many different mounting options for their like wood instruments and string instrument stuff. And I just, they work great. I think it's a 4066. I could be wrong.
Yeah, DPA, they have a lot of numbers, but they'll call out whether or not it works great on a violin or cello. They kind of call out the instrument that they think it works great on. And you can't, with these instruments, the woodwind instruments and so on and so forth, you can't go wrong with the DPA.
The musicians that I typically would work with were like LA Symphony people, that we would contract to come down to California and Orange County. We would contract them. And if you're not in that world, they are very, like, their instrument is their baby. Literally. You want to go clamping a mic on it, you better know for sure that it's not going to damage that body of that instrument. So that's the other reason I use DPA is just it's around a lot, and so they're used to it, and so they know that the rubber feet won't damage the instrument and the mounts are good, and so yeah, that's another reason I go to those.
Yeah, I'm going to sidebar here just for a second, but these the symphony people, they take a lot of pride in their instruments. And when I was managing church tech teams, worked for big churches, we would have symphony players come in. A lot of times my guys, would get on to me because, I had a pretty strict dress code on how they would look and act when they were at the church and working. And some of that had to do with when outside players come in with a instrument that is $100,000 and you walk up to them in a ball cap, shorts, and a t-shirt and, just kind of stumbling all over the place. You ain't ever touching their instrument at all.
No.
But you show up business casual, you treat them politely and they can see that, you are taking this seriously. Then they let you touch their instrument and work with them. So that's just kind of a side note on how dress code plays in a little bit more into things than you think it does.
Symphony player etiquettes.
That's right. Yeah. So room microphones. So there's a few things I want to hit here before we wrap up. Room mics, tuning, vocals. Let's talk a little bit about room mics because it's so important nowadays with in-ears, everybody's online, everybody's streaming. What room mics do you use to pick up that audience in a way that just really makes them sound big?
Yeah. So for, I would say for audience miking, for in-ears, I do like a mix. Sometimes I'll use a 414, and then I'll go with a shotgun of some sort. It varies depending on what's available.
So kind of that 414 shotgun do-up thing that I see all the time.
Yeah. So
the 414 you're running in what, cardioid?
Yeah. Yeah. So it picks up just whatever's out and not what's on stage. But then the shotgun picks up, kind of a more closer barrel, I guess, of audio.
And if you're watching on YouTube, basically it's the 414's like this, and then the shotgun's kind of like that.
Yeah, I've seen it beside too, like they do side by side.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my go-to. I haven't really used other any shotgun. I'll make it work. I think it's the Sennheiser. Sennheiser has a shotgun that's pretty good for it. I forget the model number, but and then for my reference, like I like to record a front of house reference when I mix, and for my reference, I've started using the Earthworks QT-C30, I think it is. It's their Omni mic, and I'll put it on the left and right of my console. Just kind of from my perspective, just picks up the room a little bit more. I have mixed them into like a web broadcast for the web feed, which kind of adds in it just makes it sound more live.
But you can't be yelling and screaming at people at front of house.
No, you can't do that. No, don't do that.
Yeah, don't put those mics out there and then start talking into them accidentally.
Yeah, because it'll pick it up.
They will definitely pick it up. Here's the thing that I would say. We're talking best practice and what microphones we like. But if you have a stream, you have to have audience mics. I don't care if it's a 57, a 58, whatever. Throw a mic out there. It doesn't even have to be stereo. Get a mic out there, get it into your stream mix. Don't bury the mix, but definitely get it in there where you can hear audience and a little bit of ambient. If you're using in-ears, a lot of people don't have the audience mics in the in-ears. Get them into your in-ears. It will change the world of your singers and will help them keep both ears in, which will help you as an engineer where they don't have to pull their ears out as much. So room mics are super important, I think, in today's world, much more important than they were 20 years ago when churches just weren't streaming or in-ears weren't as big of a thing.
Right. You had wedges.
Yeah. Everything was, I remember those days. They were painful.
Yeah.
Everything was wedges. So room mics, get them into the room. You talked about kind of the configuration, but, and you said you put some mics out at the console, but where's the best place to put the microphone? Like, should it be at the front lip of the stage, over the audience? Like, where should they put those?
Yeah. There's preferences for everyone. For my preference, I like putting it under the PA, just behind it a little bit. I like to kind of get it as close to
On the stage under the PA? Okay.
I like to put it there. Just it so you don't have to deal with like delay and stuff like that with the musician or the vocalist. It gives it a more natural sound for them. The closer you can get it to where they're actually going to be standing.
Yeah, and everything's arriving at the same time, so you're not having to have those weird delay moments.
Right.
They're like, why is the snare slapping around the room so much?
And you'll get those vocalists every now and then. They're like, I can hear myself, but later. It's like, well, yes, you can.
Let me turn those audience mics down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say this about audience mics. Your first shot at it is not going to be perfect. You've got to experience your room, or I shouldn't say experience. I'm using big words now, Matt, and that's when I start to mess up. You got to experiment in your room, and which will help with the experience. Right. See what I did there?
Yeah.
So it'll help with the experience online in the ears. Which, speaking of the room, tuning.
Yeah.
Like, how important is tuning, and what microphones do you use? Those are kind of two. Actually, how important is tuning is probably a podcast in and of itself.
Yeah.
But let's talk. Let's narrow it down to tuning microphones. What mics should you use for tuning, and if you have smart back there at the booth for kind of monitoring, what microphones do you use for that?
I think a lot of people would just like, you're smart. You're smart back at your console?
That's right. Yeah, I'm always smart at my console. The guy can't turn the snare on. And
just put a 414 on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. What is smart? Matt, let's tell everybody what that is.
So it is an RTA, which stands for real-time analyzer. It's a software on the computer that basically shows you what your PA is putting out, if you will, or your console. It shows you in a visual form.
Every frequency.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I use Earthworks when I'm tuning the room. If I'm just using it for like SPL, like the sound level, I don't necessarily need an Earthworks for that. Any tuning mic will work. I feel like any tuning mic would work for SPL. For tuning though, you need something that's precise, something that has a what is the measurement readout, the configuration file that you can put in so that the software knows what the curve was when it was manufactured and everything. Just for accuracy's sake, and don't go tuning your room just because you feel like you're qualified. Like you need to make sure you're qualified.
Yeah, so I think there's two different categories. I think tuning the PA, Earthworks all the way. They've been the standard in the industry in terms of tuning microphones forever. It's the little silver microphone there, and it's just what you've got to use. But I always recommend that you bring somebody in who's tuned at least 4 or 5 rooms. They've made mistakes. They've had experiences. Because it's not for the faint of heart. Delay timing and things of that nature is something that you want. I mean, we throw this word around a lot, professional, but you want somebody who is a professional, meaning they've done it quite a bit. You can call other places that they've done it at, and they can vouch for them. So that's kind of the first category of tuning. The second category is what Matt was talking about, which is back at your console using smart software, which I believe is spelled SMAART.
Yeah, yep.
From Rational Acoustics. It shows every single frequency that's happening in your room, and pretty much any tuning microphone you can use for that. And it'll, like, if something starts to feedback, you can see that pretty quickly on the software. Or if things are kind of fatiguing, like in the 1K range, you can kind of see that on the software. It just helps give you a visual feedback of what's happening in the room. So 2 different categories. The first one, let a professional handle that. You want to see them coming in with the standard, the Earthworks standard. Number 2, you can get your rig set up where it'll help assist you with what your mixes are looking like and sounding like from an EQ standpoint. And you can go to, I think it's rationalacoustics.com, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah, rationalacoustics.com, and that's where you can get the smart software there. Last but not least, vocals. Now, we did our church tech tip on the SR3117. Well, let's talk a few, and that's the Earthworks microphone that's kind of been the game changer out there right now. But let's talk several vocal microphones. Like, what vocal microphones do you like? I want to talk wired too. I think this is a lost art. Everybody's wireless. But wired microphones give you great quality. There's no companders, none of the stuff that kind of adds frequencies, especially nowadays where nobody can find a frequency. Let's talk wired microphones a little bit. And I know Earthworks makes the 117 wired. We talked about using that on the snare, and it's an amazing vocal microphone. But outside Earthworks, what would you recommend for vocals?
So there's one other Earthworks that shouldn't be left out as well on that is the 314.
Okay.
Yeah, and they make a wireless version of that, the 3314. That one, I was using that one, but it looks odd on a wireless because the capsule is like long and very straight, and there's like not a lot of shape to it at all.
So if you have a singer who wants to be creative and kind of have that artsy feel,
yeah,
this is the microphone for you.
Yeah, exactly. and it sounds phenomenal. I love that microphone as well. But we had to switch because our worship leader at the other church, like they're like, no, I don't want to use it. It looks funny, and I don't care what it sounds like. Find me another microphone that sounds good that doesn't look funny. Make it look like a normal microphone.
That sounds like a worship leader. Right there is the difference between the secular market and the Christian market.
Yeah, exactly.
The secular market, this is the best sounding microphone in the world. They don't care what it looks like.
Exactly. Use it.
The Christian market, it looks funny.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, the Earthworks 314 is the wired version. The 3314 is the Shure wireless version. I'm not sure. They do have the Sennheiser on that, but I don't know what the number is on it. But the other microphones I've used are obviously the Shure KSM9, KSM8, KSM11, the 58, 87. I think those are the Shure mics that I've used. The SE, I think it's the V7 from SE. It's at the same price range as like the 317 or 3317 or 3117.
Talk this for a second on vocal mics. One microphone fits all, right? One microphone can work for every single singer. That's not the case. I know that's not the case. Here's where I'm going at with this. You have a guy singer, you have a female singer. Why would one engineer put a 58 on one and put an 87 on the other?
Pickup pattern, power of the vocalist. There's a lot of different reasons. Mainly, I would say pickup pattern, and what it picks up from the surrounding area, but also, I mean, the power of the vocalist. I mean, there's some capsules out there that can't handle an extremely loud vocalist. I mean, you know, it's gonna peak before it gives you a good sound.
Yeah, I ran into that, Beta 87 on a vocalist that was just pounding on it. And he just distorted the head, so we had to switch him over to an SM58. So the reason why I bring that up is a lot of churches, they just have the Shure, contingent of microphones, and they throw the same microphone. When I was young, I did this. I threw this, the Beta 87 on everyone. I'm like, best microphone ever. Here's the Beta 87. But some people, that didn't work for them. And we ended up having to switch to like the SM58 because they were a little bit harsh or they sang louder. So if you're looking for a vocal microphone, I think we're saying the Earthworks, the new Earthworks microphone is pretty much a one size fits all. But set that aside for a second. And if you don't have the Earthworks microphone, understand that different people have different vocal tones and different volumes, and it'll require different microphones. The Beta 87 worked great for me with light tones and some of the female singers that I would work with, and honestly, some of the male singers that I would work with. But then I would get into somebody who was just really singing loud, and I had to switch them over to, I don't know if you remember the SKM 5000 and the Sennheiser heads
Yep.
for some of those rap artists, and they just would sing really loud into the microphone. So that is what I had to switch to them, or a 58 if I didn't have access to that.
Yeah.
So your vocal microphones aren't, you need to be careful that it matches the talent that you have on the platform. I think we're saying the Earthworks is a game changer here.
Yeah.
In terms of it handling everybody all at the same kind of the same capacity.
Yeah.
But I would even throw that microphone in there and say, hey, if you've got it on somebody, and you may need to try something else to see, what works right for that person. Would you agree with that?
Oh, completely. Yeah. I mean, at Free Chapel, we had the Telefunken M80 capsule for vocals. We had some M81s. It's a little bit different curve. We had the SE, the V7. I think it's the V7 or the V7X. But we had the SE capsule. We had Shure capsules. We had DPA capsules. We had a 4018 VL that we were using. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different capsules that we had at our disposal for different vocalists. But again, once we switched to the Earthworks, it was, I mean, it was surprising that it did work for everybody. Maybe it doesn't for you though. Maybe it does. Maybe it's not the mic for you, but I would dare say try it and just see what happens.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. Get that Earthworks microphone. Matt and I believe that it's a game changer for you. And all the comments that I'm hearing coming back are very similar to Matt's. Like, oh my gosh, this is the microphone I'm going to use forever on my vocals.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, especially the price point where it's at. It's not a DPA price point. Nothing against DPA, but you pay for a lot of money for the DPAs.
And it sounds great. It does sound great. I mean, our lead vocalist loved that mic in his ears, and he didn't want to switch to the Earthworks at Free Chapel, and so they've kept him on the DPA, but they do have an Earthworks capsule for him if he ever wants to switch. But yeah, he got his ears dialed in, and he loved the sound of it on his voice. And I mean, that's the thing. It's like, if it sounds great to him, you can make it work at front of house.
So Matt, I know a lot of people are probably going to want to get in touch with you. They're going to want to ask you questions. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Matt Sound. I'm at Matt Sound. You can also look me up on the website, mattsound.live. And then you could email me at matt@mattsound.live.
So just to repeat all that for those people scrambling to write it down, to get in touch with Matt or to book him, you can go to mattsound.live. That's MATT sound.live, or ping him at mattsound on Instagram. Matt, thanks for coming in and sharing your knowledge on microphones.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, that wraps things up for today's episode. I can't wait to talk to you on the next Tech Arts podcast. Until then, I'm David Leuschner, signing off by wishing you a great day and praying God blesses every moment of your week. See you soon.
You have been listening to the Tech Arts Podcast, presented by Digital Great Commission Ministries. DGCM is a 501c3 nonprofit that was started to help churches with all things technical. Whether you need help building a team, finding the right gear, or just a better understanding of the church tech world, DGCM is here for you. Find out more about our free on-site visits, reports, and consulting by going to audiovideolighting.com. Digital Great Commission Ministries will help you run your church service like a pro. Find out more at audiovideolighting.com.
From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz. From front of house to center stage, for over 25 years, Earthworks microphones have sculpted the sounds of your favorite concerts, venues, and performances. Earthworks Audio is a sponsor of the Tech Arts Podcast. We are so happy to have them on board and excited to promote the new Earthworks SR117 vocal mic and capsules. To find out more about Earthworks Audio or to get your hands on this mic, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. Capturing emotion with sound. earthworksaudio.com.